Good morning. My name is Lynn Kelly, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor as well as a licensed professional counselor in other states. I welcome you today to If You Don't Mind. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a moment and tell you how this came about. This, if you don't mind, YouTube has been in existence since 2023, the beginning, and timing wasn't right. If you know how God works, everything is around his timing. So I prayed over it and I said, I still wanted to do this because God gave me the vision. My mission is to help as many people as I can. So uh, God gave me that okay not too long ago. He said, this is the time. There's so many hurting people out there that you can help and you can touch. So it's all about touching lives. So I do it from a Christian standpoint as well as our DSM, which is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Disorders. I'm not here to heal you. I'm here to give you psychoeducation, tools for the journey, interventions, and support you. I'm also on TikTok every morning, and on TikTok every morning, I am there giving you morning doses to start your day and to help you get into your day and give you some support and give you some motivation. This is all about motivation, inspiration, and first and foremost, your mental health. So that's what it did. I give all glory to God for this. And I pray that if you know somebody that is out there suffering, mental health is nothing to play with. It is real. So today we're going to focus on the foundation. Since this is the first show in Mental Health Month, look at God's timing. Mental Health Month, and this is the first show. So what we want to do, we want to really focus on the foundation where a lot of disorders start. And I'm going to have special guests on here. So today I want to introduce to you my good friend. Ooh, it's been so many years. We've raised our children together, and she's been supportive and she's always been there. She has a very good she's empathic. Or should I say she has that prophetic insight, which is good at times because you know what? Jean Ann does not bite her tongue. She will tell you about herself. And as Jean Ann knows, she is not for everybody. And that's what I love about her. She will tell you straight up, I'm not for everybody. So that is very, very important. So much starts in the family. And Jean Ann, welcome. If you don't mind, welcome, Jean Ann.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for this opportunity. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Thanks. It's an honor to be here with you because it's been a journey. We knew each other when. So
Hmm.
to get from here to there, we're a testament to your first topic, really, from
Yeah.
our journey and life and life happening. And I'm honored because we were in different fields and now we're here. We are in the same field of mental health counseling. You know, God is not a man that he should lie, right? You do what you do and
Exactly.
you end up where you end up. And it's an honor because this is important. Our mental health is important. And, it starts with you
Hmm. Hmm.
because once we start the healing of ourselves, we're able to be the best that we can be for the world at large, and which includes our families.
Exactly. And, this is, I want to also start with the psychoeducation. Every time you see me, I'm going to give you the educated version from American Psychological Association, or you will get my friend Miss Merriam Webster. So I want to give you definitions. So the APA, American Psychological Association, they define the dysfunctional family in which relationships or communication are impaired and members are unable to attain closeness and self expression. Members of a dysfunctional family often develop symptomatic behaviors, and often one individual in the family presents as the identified patient. Growing up, that's where when we have clients that come see us, we take a walk back down memory lane because we are trying to get into that family tree. And a lot of times, a lot of us don't know what happened with our family tree because back in the day, we weren't allowed to know anything. Mama would just say there's some nuts under the tree, or, there's something's not right or the light's not on. So we did not know. But now we delve into it. There's so much in that dysfunctional family, and there are roles that each person plays. And when you look at it, and Gina, and as we look at the dysfunctional family, it can have a significant impact on your mental health, even though you're not the one impacted and having the disorder, but it can have a significant impact. There's trauma, there's domestic violence, there's so much in the dysfunctional family as we talk about it. Can you relate to that, where growing up in a dysfunctional family, you don't have the coping mechanisms you need, you don't have the support you need, and you can deal with the emotional and the domestic abuse, and then there's sexual abuse, there's molestation, and guess what, it will manifest later in life sometimes, and that's why they're coming to see us. It can spill over into relationships and so many things, and I'm sure you can attest to some of those things I'm saying, Jeannie.
I can, and I know we're talking about others, but we all have a journey, and we all got
Mhm.
here somewhere. And the stories we heard and the stories we've told ourselves, a lot of things come from what we've heard as children, and we've heard
Mhm.
through a child's ear.
Mhm.
And sometimes what we hear through a child's ear, they imprint on us into adulthood. Um, and as adults, a lot of times now we'll say things and we never think of the impact it has had on the children because we're flippant, and you
Mhm.
don't understand. One of the things I do feel, even understanding dysfunctional family, because I came from one and I created one. If truth be told, let's just tell the truth and shame the devil, because
Mhm.
no one is perfect, and dysfunction is subjective to what you think is. I'm not talking about the real things that are traumatic and the real abuses. We're talking about how we hear things and process creates our story.
Exactly.
Um, I feel that I think, and it what has happened is that a lot of times we judge our life, especially as time has progressed with the advancement of technology. And I've had to be very clear, even with myself, that I can view my parents who raised me, myself, from yesteryear through the lens of today. And sometimes that's not fair,
Mhm.
right? Because we can't blame people for the knowledge they didn't have, but also at the advancement of time of technology, the access to things that we didn't have back in the day, we're judging it. And so sometimes it's understanding, and maybe I'm stepping ahead of the game. Sometimes it's understanding who the people are, where they came from, and culture makes a big difference. I'm a first generation American. My parents are of Caribbean descent. That makes a big difference in how in my rearing. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Boy, I was raised in Brooklyn, right? But I live in Florida. There's a difference in that as well, and how it impacts the family and what the stories are. And so over time, what I have begun to learn to do is that we sit in our place. But I think as I've matured, I'm beginning to see things through a different lens. And being a parent, I had to learn to shift as I've matured, especially a parent of adult children.
Yes.
That shifts your whole perspective as well.
Yes, it does. And firsthand, I can tell you. And I always tell my clients, let's change your lens. Let's look at it differently. And there's always a different way to look at things. And also, generational, passing down from generation to generation. Is it time to break it? Yes, there comes a time where you don't continue it on, because if you grew up in it, then you want to try to break it so your children don't grow up in it, then their children don't grow up in it, and on and on and on. And sometimes it's so hard because, like I said, there's trauma involved. And if you can't release your past, you can't live for today. So you must change your lens, as Jean Ann said. So, some of the ways that being a part of a dysfunctional family can affect you, first of all, is low self esteem. And low self esteem, your self efficacy, constant criticism, neglect, emotional withdrawal, things of that nature can create, feelings of unworthiness. Over time, people may internalize these messages and develop a poor sense of self esteem or self worth, leading to anxieties, depression, and even self destructive behavior. There are some self destructive destructive behaviors out there because they can't handle the emotions. So they will do some certain things like cutting and doing things to just ease their emotional load, and that is not good. Also, there's difficulty in forming healthy relationships. If you grow up and you're not privy to seeing a healthy relationship, well, you know what? How do you think you're going to form one? Because you don't know what it looks like, all the elements in a healthy relationship. So those are some of the things as well. Would you like to comment on that, Jean Ann?
I I think you've really expounded well on it. I think a lot of stuff that also happens in dysfunction is also the feelings of abandonment, right? Always in fight or
Yes.
flight mode.
Yes.
When there's a lot of dysfunction, a lot in the world, a lot of children are sent away to different places, and so
Hmm.
children may have had a fight or flight with the abuse. The kids come back to the abuser, and then we end up in relationships that look like it. The people don't look the same, but the chaos is familiar,
Hmm.
and so we
Hmm.
gravitate towards it.
Hmm.
Um, it shows up in our work, right? Because someone may say something to you, they know nothing about your story, but you become reactive,
Triggered.
and you may
Yes.
become submissive to the become hyper. You may become submissive, or you become angry. You become, and that's the story of how your family life has trans transmuted into it in other areas of your life. And I think what happens is that oftentimes is that there is no place to put it,
Hmm.
and there's no one who has heard you. Oftentimes, we know we do this as parents, we've done it as parents, or just in the world. Just because I'm a mental health counselor does not mean I'm not a human being. I wasn't always this, I didn't hatch as a mental health counselor. So, and even so, we still make mistakes in this world. So, I'm very authentic as a person. So, and Lynn, you know that. So, that's why she
Hmm.
said, I said, I'm not for everybody because I'm not. But because truth is truth and no one likes to hear it all the time, myself included, but there's that part of you that becomes in the relationships that you can't hear. You become so afraid that you have the sense of failure that it forms a form of paralysis.
Yes.
um and the paralysis is that you're like, why? There's a movie they talk about, it's like a joke, failure to launch.
Hmm.
Failure to launch comes from that form of paralysis,
Yeah.
right? That you're doing well in work, you're doing whatever, you think you're successful, as well as you would. You're like, but I can't pass over that piece.
Hmm.
That's how it shows up. It doesn't look like what it looks like. It doesn't look like it's about the family, but that's how it shows up in your body and how you manifest to the world.
That is so true. And listening, that's the key word, listening. And I need to listen more. And I learned that through my own personal journey in therapy. Therapists need therapists too. And you have to listen. And it is the hardest thing to listen. And then you said triggered. There are a lot of times where I'll be helping someone and it triggers from what I've been through. And I can really understand that, empathize. And I'm also an empath. So I feel those emotions that they're going through. And that is so important. Another thing, growing up in a dysfunctional family, prolonged exposure to it, you know what? You can develop disorders from it, such as PTSD. You can develop anxiety and also depression, and may have problems with intimacy in your adult relationships. All of this is coming from that childhood dysfunctional family and things that you were going through. You think about the child in that family who was molested by a family member. There's so many different things that happen, and they have carried it all this time, and it's just so hard. So, they develop then, isolation and depression. And those are the things that aren't good. And then when the parent finally finds out, they can develop PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder, all from that childhood and that dysfunctional family. Also, sometimes when you're growing up in that, you may have problems regulating your emotions. If, you know, if you have learned poor emotional regulation, or the emotional expression wasn't there, raising boys now, I can attest to this. Shut up. You better not cry. Okay. I'll give you something to cry about. I did not let them express themselves a lot because boys weren't allowed. They were supposed to be strong. So you know what? This is something that parents need to really check on. Let them express themselves. Now I know it, but growing up I didn't. Being a single parent of three, I didn't have time for it. So this was something that I had to learn, and hoping that that did not, impair them. Also, coping mechanisms. Being in a dysfunctional family, you develop unhealthy coping mechanisms on how to deal with things such as substance abuse, overeating, for emotional overeating. You might have emotional numbness. You might be numb and not show any emotions at all. And that's hard because then sometimes you're just in a survival mode. I'm just here. I'm just surviving. And that is not good. And that can lead into chronic physical illness and other issues. How about fear of conflict, Gina?
You know, I know about that. I don't have a problem with conflict, but I know a lot of people in my life do. I don't, because conflict is what it is. But that's also an earmark of dysfunction, right? That's
Yes,
also an earmark of some of the signs of the abandonment, the loss, the
yes.
abuse that we experience. Is that I'm going to get you before you get me,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There's also the thing of it is, and we talk about dysfunction. Let me talk about something about losses at an early age
Yes.
creates, and children especially, not being allowed to grieve, because we don't think, like, a child loses their mother or their father at a young age, or they're taken from them. We have the foster care system, and we wonder why things have happened to children, or and as adults, and no one ever sees the why. Is that they never learned how to grieve for themselves, and no one allowed them or saw them. And if we go back truthfully and look at the foundation, is that no one ever really listened to you as a child,
Yes.
right? You're seen and not heard. We still do
Mm-hmm.
it today. Now we call it gentle parenting, and we let them talk and do all this stuff, but we're still really not listening to them. As
Exactly.
much freedom and as much technology as we have in the world, and people we assess. I remember before I had children, I could tell everybody how to be a parent, baby, until I became one. I could tell you everything my parents did wrong until I became one. I had to apologize to my mother. It doesn't mean they didn't do things. I began to see myself in certain things and the why. However, however, part of the journey is, I think, in the healing process, is really grieving for yourself and what you think you lost or believe that you lost. Because oftentimes in families, what they would tell them, and you talked about sexual trauma, sexual abuse, molestation, they will tell the child it didn't happen. And that creates something, so you're never seen and heard. Or they will say, it happened to me too. And so that's the way it is. So since it happened to you didn't see them. So when the person goes out into life and it happens in their life or their family, they never learned how to regulate. It was just like, that's just the way things are done, and we just accept it. And so I think, I believe, as we help them process, we have the labels. One of them is borderline personality disorder, because we're like,
Yeah.
why is this person acting out this way? Why are there so much angst? Why are they attacking? What's this? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we label people, we label children, we label adults,
Mm-hmm.
but we never look at the why behind the reason of
Mm-hmm.
the thing that occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as we blame someone else, which is what families do,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to take ownership
Yeah.
of the part we have played in the demise of the person's psyche, because we're all responsible. We are our brother's keeper.
Mm-hmm. And that's so true because as you were talking, it brought up ACE, adverse childhood experiences. And it brought that into mind with me. And sometimes they can't break free because they don't know how to. You can break free from some of those, rewire those maladaptive behaviors. How can you do that? Through therapy, through group therapy, and also through mindfulness practices. They can help lower that anxiety. And this is so important that I wanted to bring up. Yes, you might have grown up in a dysfunctional family, but you know what? The past is gone, it's dead. Why are you looking back there? It can't be revived. If it can, let me know, because we're going to make some money. We're going to patent that. But it's gone forever. And then you can't live over here. You're projecting over here. The Bible says we're going to live for today because tomorrow is not promised. Okay? So you want to live in the moment. You're missing the here and now. And I see a lot of that, Jean Ann, where a lot of people are still living in that past and they can't break free from that past. Maybe that could be that healing is a journey. It's not going to happen overnight. When you go to therapy, you can't just go to 2 or 3 sessions and say, I'm healed. You've got to keep on until we release you because we do a treatment plan and there are goals and objectives. So you come, the first session is nothing but an assessment. Then the next session, we're going to start the process, getting to know you, building what we need, planning that treatment plan, and getting all that together. And by that time, you've left. So where's the healing? You've taken all that stuff. And Gina, and I know you want to say something.
I know, because I'm always ready to say something. But
Yeah.
anyhow, the thing of it is that I say this in full respect. The past is not the past if it occurs in the present.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is sometimes you need to talk through it and it seems like you're reliving it, but you talking through it to help you process for the first time, which is what I
Hmm.
think therapy allows you to talk in a safe space about the stuff that when you told somebody that didn't happen, nah, that didn't
Hmm.
happen. Your reality is your reality, and no one has permission to invalidate your truth. You can't force people, though, to agree with you, but in therapy, you get to speak it from a place where oftentimes people don't want to hear what you have to say, or they can't receive it because it, it affects them, impacts them. But that starts the healing process. A lot of times we want to deal on the surface,
Hmm.
and we don't want to deep dive, because if we deep dive, we have to look at the part
Yes.
we play in the story and in our journey. Things happened to us when we were children. They
Hmm.
did. But then we played a part as we got older, didn't we? My mother was nasty. She did this. My father did this. They were mean. But I gave as good as I got.
Hmm.
And that's where the work begins. That's where we start, right? You can go to therapy and say, that therapist didn't do anything for me. But she can't do for you if you don't tell the truth.
That's
If
right.
you're not ready to face your truth,
Hmm.
not the
Hmm.
truth, your truth, if you're not able to tell your story and to do the work, nothing is going to work no matter what.
Hmm.
Nothing is going to heal no matter what. I can't make my mother love me. I can't make my father love me. I can't make my sister fix it. I can't make my brother fix it. I can't make my husband do what I need him to do. The only person I can fix is me. And it doesn't matter what they think after the fact. It's you being centered and whole. The dysfunction that you have to heal is the story we have told ourselves, valid or otherwise, and to heal from a different perspective. It's not easy, it
Hmm.
is painful. You have to grieve yourself.
Yes, you do.
However, you have to do the work.
Yes. Yes. And that is so true, Jean Ann. You know, you live in the past. So when you're living in the past, it's like a fire. You're constantly giving it fuel. You're giving fuel to that fire. It's just like a person who has trauma, they're stuck right there. They may be stuck right there where their trauma happened. They may present themselves as a child, that inner child, and we'll get into that in a later session. But in order to do the work and to heal from it, you have to go deep and build that therapeutic relationship with the counselor, with the therapist, and allow that therapist to get in there and excavate the roots. If you chop down a tree, what happens? It can grow back. But when you get in there and excavate those roots, that's when the healing begins because those roots are coming up and out. And therapy is all about getting things up and out. And that is so important. You touched on so many different things. And I want to go over the common roles in the dysfunctional family. And that is so important. And you out there, if you're listening, if you don't mind, I want you to place yourself and see what role you might have played if you had a dysfunctional family. Or if you're a parent now, look at the roles that your children might be playing if you're in a dysfunctional situation. The first one is the golden child. And the golden child never does anything wrong. That is the the role that manifests as perfectionism. So when I grew up, I learned that nobody was perfect but God. Okay. So that golden child, you know, this role often manifests as perfectionism and a low sense of self. It's common for those people to become obsessively attached to others as they learn to get their value and their worth from external sources. You know, it is very important to hear constantly, I love you. You're my princess. I still say the role of the father and daughter is very important. You're my princess. You're beautiful. Daddy is plays a vital role in helping that daughter as she gets older pick her mate. And it's very important. Then you have the hero. And the hero is the one who proves to the rest of the world that the family is all right. That's the hero. They hold on to ideas like, if little Jimmy is a football star, then our family can't be that bad. In adulthood, they're drawn to achievement and success, and they're prone to perfectionism, being overworked. They got to shine because they're the hero. Then you have the mascot. And the mascot is the one who diffuses conflict. That's the one that's always in the middle in the family, skilled with humor and methods of deflection. They were always drawn to attention. They draw to attention towards themselves and away from where it could turn volatile. And many well known comedians, that's where they pick it up from. They use their humor and their self proclaimed mascots. Next time you hear a comedian turn on the comedy channel, check it out and see. Then there's the identified patient. And the identified patient, that's the person who is frequently the family's reason for having problems, or perhaps their reason for coming to therapy. Or perhaps they ain't going to therapy at all because they don't think they're the problem. And that is the family problem, that they need therapy. And it is so important. We're here because Bobby has a substance abuse problem. Okay, where did Bobby's substance abuse problem come from? So we're going to go back down Yellow Brick Road and we're going to look, okay, was there any trauma in your life, Bobby? What happened? And we want to get into that. And then we can say, this is why Bobby has a substance abuse problem. Sometimes we listen to the message and not the emotion in the message. Little Bobby was telling you things all along, but you didn't hear it. As Jean Ann said, you must learn to listen. And then we have the scapegoat. And the scapegoat, that's the black sheep. That's the person who is the outliner, the one who is different. As Deborah Green and I ran the streets, and we were the different ones. We were the black sheep. We were just different. I don't know if this child is mine. Maybe they gave me the wrong child in the hospital because I was totally different, you know? And they are opposite from the hero. And Jeannie, and you're laughing because you know me. They're opposite from the hero, and are often the focus of the family's problems. I was always in trouble. My daddy was always at school for me because I wanted that attention from him. He was always there.
Mm.
Whether it was good or bad attention, I wanted that attention from him. And when my dad came to school, he looked good, but he didn't always get after me. He got after Deborah and Beverly, my two friends who I hung with. All of us got in trouble. Velda, we all got in trouble. I was that one that got on the bus and went to school, got there at 7:30 and took the 7:35 bus home. Okay? That was me. I was always in trouble. So I wasn't in my experience, the black sheep is often the most honest of the family members, the one who broke away, but being honest does not always come with perks. And you know, the rest of the family Sometimes, you know, we're in denial phases about certain things, and the scapegoat is in denial phases. And Gina, and you have that look on your face, so go ahead and spill the tea.
I'm just listening to you.
Okay.
I understand the role very well.
Yes. And why? Why do you do that? Can you
Oh
identify? Can
no.
you label yourself with that? Can you label anybody
I
else?
absolutely, I know what the scapegoat looks like. The interesting thing about the scapegoat is everyone calls them the victim. That when they tell the story, that they're the victim.
Mhm.
The truth is, the scapegoat allows everybody else to hide.
Yes.
The scapegoat sits at the truth of the matter.
Hmm.
The scapegoat presents all the family's illness.
Yes.
The scapegoat tells the truth.
Ooh, that is so true. Ooh.
What happens is that every family, whether you're black, white, orange, or purple, has secrets.
Hmm.
The scapegoat doesn't keep secrets,
Yes.
and that's the problem.
Hmm.
The scapegoat ends up actually being the generational curse breaker.
Mm. Mm.
Joseph was a scapegoat.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
The scapegoat is missed, but it's not that they're missed. People see who they are, but they
Yeah.
have to silence their voice. So as long as they say you're a liar and you're bad, it creates a dysfunctional triangulation in the family, right? Everybody
Triangular.
turns
I love it.
everybody turns against them. It happens in marriages. The husband and the wife against the child. The husband or the wife with a child against the spouse. It's mixes, right? But
Yes.
there's always a main scapegoat. And the funny thing with all of these roles, we carry it into other relationships because it is a familiar role. It is easy. So when we talk about it being the past, and I say the past is the present, you know your role so well, you don't know how to stop being in that role.
Yes.
And so you continue it. The characters are different in the play, but you're playing the same role. You change your clothes, but you play the role and you continue the behaviors. In each one, it's uncomfortable. The golden child, as uncomfortable as it is for the other children,
Hmm.
it's uncomfortable for them too, because they
Yes.
don't want to be that role. They don't want to be the perfect person. It's killing them inside,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
right? The mascot, the clown, it's killing them. The
Hmm.
funny thing is, the mascot, the one who's trying to stop everything, the underlying thing is the family underlying behaviors, addictions, they all seem to have the same one. How it manifests and how it's accepted is different. You have Susie who has a sexual addiction, but we don't talk about it that she has a man after man after man, right?
Hmm.
We don't think about it because it's not in your face.
Exactly.
The person who's gambling, you're not seeing it. It's the same addiction, but that's how they manage it,
Yeah.
right? Then there's the one who does the substances, and they're easy to blame because
Hmm.
you're able to hide what's in front of you. It's easy to hide behind what's in front of your face
Yes.
than to hide what's underneath. When the family deals with what we sweep under the carpet,
Mm.
it's when the healing and the restoration happens.
Yes.
Unfortunately, a lot of times it happens after we have to lose people to face it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Or the dysfunction continues where we cut ties and we
Hmm.
create a new tribe.
Yes. Yes. And we bring it
Therapy,
into that new tribe. It just carries on. Where's the
correct.
breaking point? Where's that breaking
It's
point?
this conversation. It's really the
Yes.
conversation. We talk therapy, we use the buzzwords, we use clinical terms, right?
Yes.
Here's the thing about finding a therapist: find someone who resonates with you,
Hmm. Hmm.
someone you can really talk to,
Yes.
someone you can tell your secrets to, even if it's dirty.
Hmm.
It's your story.
Yes.
And you know what? And if the therapist doesn't work for you,
Change.
it doesn't work for you, so
It doesn't
change.
work. Yes.
Like, you paying your money. I'm being,
Yeah.
straightforward. Why would you keep going to a doctor that gives you the wrong medication till you're dying?
Exactly.
If you do,
Exactly.
that's nuts. Shift. You're in control, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes one of the things I like to do is I do an inventory of myself because it was helpful. It's okay, even if they're dead and they did something, to resent them, because things happen and we don't talk about it. And here's where it sits. Jean Ann, she was so good. Now everybody know you didn't like Jean Ann.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
We're continuing the story, and you're like, Jean
Exactly.
Ann is nice. Jean Ann, I'm just using me. I'm not saying people said that. Well, even if they did, I don't care. Jean Ann is nice. Are you kidding me? She did X, Y, and Z. And no, she didn't do that. I didn't do that to you,
Mhm. Mhm.
but I did that to them.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that's where the dysfunctions happen in the family.
Yeah.
We tell the person that what you did to me, because the next person, you didn't do it to someone else, it
Mhm.
never occurred.
Mhm.
Who I see you as, Lynn is Lynn, you're poised, you shift, your faith is there. There's a side of you I know, but
Yes.
there's a side of you your children know.
Yes.
And then you have the children, and you could have a family, and each child, you could have two children, or three children, or four or five, whatever. Each child has a different parent
Yes. Mhm. Mhm.
because we show up in relationships differently.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And that's the truth in families. If mom was mean to me, she was mean to me. It doesn't mean she was mean to you. It wasn't your lived experience. There's the face we give the world. This is who I said, I'm not for everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my headphones. There's a face we give the world, and then there's a face we give behind closed doors.
Mhm.
The face that you grew up saying, we don't let our secrets out of our house. What happened to
Mhm.
your face here?
Mhm. Mhm.
And you go out in the world and they've been just beat you to death inside. They've just abused you verbally. Let's be clear, we give as good as we get. And then when you go into the world, the face presents beautifully, and the person is like, what just happened?
Exactly. It's so much. It's so much, Jean Ann, when you think about it. And, you know, even in the family, you have that parentified child. And I did that, the parentified child. And that's the one that will take on the role of the other spouse. I need you to babysit. My son told me, he said, Mommy, it was too much. But at that time, I didn't know that. I needed his help. But having him as a team watching his little brother was too much. That was too much. He was put in a role that, as of a parent. So, what happened to that childhood? He was put in that role. And then, if he didn't do things right, guess who came down on him? I did. See, you have to look at the role that you play in these lives. And that is what is impar- that is what is uh important, because you want to fix this dysfunction. But the first thing Jean Ann said, you have to have self-awareness. Then you need to learn how to set boundaries. Every single relationship has and should have boundaries. You have mother daughter, mother son, you have husband wife. Every relationship has boundaries. And often, if you don't have that, then you know what? You have combativeness, you have confusion, and you know what? It's time to seek counseling. And as Jean Ann said, she's not for everybody, neither am I. I'm cut and dry. I tell them, I changeth not, and I will call you out. That's how I am as a counselor. We're all uniquely made. We are all uniquely made. And one thing that, for me, God will give me a message about somebody in the middle of the session. And, you got to call them out on it. And I'm like, I tell them in the beginning, if you don't tell me, he will. And they're like, what you mean by that? I said, well, just go on. I said, my father, will tell me. And, it's important that, you build that relationship. And I try to build that relationship with people. We're going to be besties. We're going to have fun together. I want you to trust me. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you. That's why you came. I want to give you a great life. a chance to get rid of this because you're carrying around heavy bags from childhood. I always give them the analogy of picture uh, Erica Badu walking through Grand Central Station with all of these bags of heavy issues. Aren't you tired of carrying those issues? When are you going to let them go? That means that you have taken down your blinders. You're still looking in the past. If you won't get rid of your past, you can't live today. It won't let you live today. And that's what it's all about, the self awareness. And, you have to start the healing process. You have to break that cycle. You have to get rid of that emotional immaturity, that emotional immaturity. And that is one thing that you have not grown. You're still that inner child, or that inner child still rules you. And you don't need that little girl or boy now. It's time to grow up because you're no longer that child in that situation. Jean Ann, would you like to say anything about healthier ways of relating to yourself and others, or, about breaking that cycle, being that emotional immaturity?
One of the things I was thinking as you were speaking was actually some of the things is forgiving yourself. It starts doing some of the work is forgiving of self and integrating. So Lynn speaks about putting the past behind, but what happens in therapy is the integration of the past into the present. A lot of times, what has happened is that you're stuck at a certain age. The age where the major trauma happened, if you were sexually abused or physically abused or whatever, say from the ages from 6 to 8, and you don't understand when you're talking. So you may talk about someone and your intonation changes or you act out a certain way and you don't recognize it. You're stuck at that age.
Mm-hmm.
And so in therapy is really what Lynn was talking identifying is integrating that 5-year-old self, 6, 7, 8-year-old self, 15-year-old self, integrating them into you as who you are today as a person. What a lot of that would require work of the forgiveness work, the reframing,
Mm-hmm.
telling her or him that they're safe, that you have protected them, that they've made it, right? But seeing the situation for what it was and understanding that sometimes, I'm just giving an example, that the people who may have hurt you or the people who didn't protect you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
making excuses for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's them. And they have to deal with their God and they have to deal with their stuff. Where you have to do the work is integrating that. Here's what happened to me at 5. And I heard it through my 5-year-old ears. Or this happened to me as a 5-year-old, and so I couldn't protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
But today, I'm going to tell 5-year-old Jean Ann that she's okay.
Mm-hmm.
She's made it. She sustained it.
Mm-hmm.
10-year-old Jean Ann, yes, that happened, Jean
Mm-hmm.
Ann, and you're safe again. The person's no
Mm-hmm.
longer here to harm you. And let's integrate that peace into you. Let's reframe the conversation that you are enough. We talked about a lot of things. One of the forms of therapy I do, and Lynn does, is called eye movement desensitization
Yes.
reprocessing.
EMDR.
Long term, it's called EMDR. And I tell people, go on YouTube and learn these things. And if you're listening to this and we've said some terms, rewind it, write it down, and look it up.
Yeah.
YouTube is a master. You're raising children, use YouTube. So I'm just telling you, it's not a replacement. AI is not a replacement, but it's to help to integrate. What happens is the trauma becomes so intense, I'm going to say acute in your system.
Mm-hmm.
The body remembers it. And so you're acting out always at stuck at that age. People say, why don't you grow up? You keep talking about
Mm-hmm.
that. Here's another piece with that, though. When you're talking about it, you're reliving it,
Yes.
but it to the cellular level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you've never been told you're safe. You've never let go of the trauma that reacts when it shows up.
Yes.
And once you're able to do that through therapy, there are different forms. Don't go to the therapist, say I want
Yeah.
EMDR, because
Yeah.
you know what, she knows the protocol that may work
Yes.
for you, because everything doesn't work for everyone just because we see it, okay?
Exactly.
But it's like writing a letter to yourself. You may have had, I'm gonna just say an abortion or a miscarriage,
Mm-hmm.
and It may have happened young and the family took you to have it and no one's ever talked about it and you're
Yeah.
sitting in that.
Yes. Yep. You're absolutely right.
And so you write a letter to say to your body or to whomever, thank you for the opportunity
Yes.
and choosing me. But you know what? You're safe now.
Hmm.
And I am enough because
Hmm.
I've come to this level.
Yes.
Those are skills that you learn. Those are
Yes.
conversation. Everybody can't hear you. Your
Yes.
family can't hear you. You know, I used to hate this thing. People would say, you have to be okay with not getting on the sorry. The person might be deceased. So talk to them, but you have to help say it to yourself. Because I
Exactly.
forgive me and I forgive you because you did the best you could with the knowledge you had at that time. I'm angry at you for what you did and I own it and I have contempt for you. But
Exactly.
here's what I'm going to do to grow from that.
Yes. Yes. It's so
That's the
important
work.
what you're saying, Jean Ann, because EMDR, it's a form of hypnosis, but we do it through the eyes and we reprocess your trauma. So when it comes up again, it doesn't affect you as it did before we started. Because that's what happens. You have those triggers and it unlocks it and it brings it forward. And it's like you're feeling it all over again. And I know when I work with with the vets and stuff like that, it's reprocessing that
Mhm.
trauma. So the next time they can talk about it and they may not cry, they may not shake. There's so many traumatic responses that they have to it. So thank you. As we start to close today, Jean Ann, I want to go over some interventions. As I said before, we're not here to diagnose you. We're here for psychoeducation. We're going to educate you. We're going to give you the tools for the journey and the interventions, and we're here to support you. So, this is what we do here. This is free therapy that we just gave you. If it applies to you, take it and use it. Use it, share it with someone in your family or someone who might be suffering. So, I want you to understand the impact of the dysfunctional family. And I want you to ask yourself some things. What coping mechanisms did you learn today? We talked about boundaries and some other things. Replay this and you'll find out. How does it show up? How does dysfunctional family show up in your adult relationships, your adult work, or in your self image? And you can journal. I believe in journaling thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And we'll talk about that. TBE. If you think it, you'll behave it and you'll feel it. So it's very important to put that down on paper. I'm thinking, I'm feeling this way this morning. Why? Well, last night this happened, blah, blah, blah. And we can uncover it in therapy. Challenge the role, the scapegoat, all the parentification, all of these roles we talked about. If you were the caretaker, for instance, do you believe your worth comes from being needed? Do you try to still in your adult life be in that role? These are the things that, practice giving yourself permission to act outside of that role and you'll see things changing if you're in your life. It's going to feel uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable because you're so used to doing it this way. And it's so hard when people, come. I said, okay, you have some bad habits. To break a bad habit, we have to create a habit, but we're creating healthy habits. And that is one thing that you must do to break some of these habits of dysfunctional family. But you must be consistent. Consistency is the key. You're going to do it this way for this amount of time until it changes and be consistent. Set boundaries, limit contact. If you have someone that you're combative with all the time, limit that contact. Sometimes, you have to give them to God. Stay away, give it to God. God will work it out. Okay. And then stop trying to fix others. Let them go to therapy. Stop trying to fix them. Let them go to therapy. Sometimes you can't fix them and you become anxious and things happen to you. And then reparent yourself, creating routines that give you structure and safety. And that's what you need to do. Validate your own feelings, reparent yourself. and then find new support systems. Sometimes, out with the old and with the new. Sometimes you gotta, the Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, so you will know what is good and perfect. And I'm paraphrasing. So please make sure you read that. It's Romans 12 too, because the healing journey, counseling and consulting is built on Romans 12 too. Be ye transformed. You come to counseling to transform your way of thinking, because we get into thinking traps and we want to transform that. Redefine yourself. What do I enjoy? Where are my real values? As changes, your values change. Your children grow, things happen, your values change. It's okay. Who am I now? I'm not trying to fix or hide. Who am I? And that's when you really have that come to Jesus meeting. Ooh, sit in your closet in the quiet dark and ask God, who am I? And when he reveals it to you, we used to sing this song in church, Get Right with God and Do It Now. And whew, God will show you who you are. And sometimes it's hard to take. And sometimes you might isolate yourself and work on it with him for a while. So here are a few things that I want to give you what the Bible says, because I always like to look at the Bible response. And the Bible doesn't use the modern term as dysfunctional family, but the Bible talks about broken relationships. And there are tons of broken relationships, betrayal, favoritism, abuse, poor communication, and cycles in the Bible, which represent, the dysfunction. And some of them were seriously messed up. Some of those stories, daughters sleeping with fathers and all kind of stuff. David is one of my favorite characters, but
Mhm.
David has some dysfunction in his family. And it goes on and on and on. A few key examples are Adam and Eve and their kids, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah with Esau and Jacob. Major favoritism, major favoritism. Then Jacob and his many wives and children. You know, uh, he clearly favored Joseph, and his brothers hated him because he was the favorite child. That's how Joseph wound up in he was. Read the story because I don't want to get into it, but he ended up being king. Okay. His brothers did him wrong because he was the favorite child. And then there's David's family, as we talked about. So favoritism can cause division. Sin has generational impact. God uses broken people. Ooh, yes, he will. God is a father to the fatherless and to the broken. When he starts to rebuild you, come to him when you're broken. He will rebuild you one piece at a time. It's like stained glass, and it's beautiful. It's like stained glass. And then there's some Bible verses. Cain and Abel. That was a story of a dysfunctional family. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out in the field. And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Second Samuel. Amnon, Tamar, and Absalom. And when King David heard of all these things, he was very angry. They had sexual assault within the family. There was so much that went on. Proverbs 11:20-29 says, whoever brings ruin in their family will inherit only wind, and the fool will be a servant to the wise. A warning about the consequences of poor family leadership or reckless behavior. And Proverbs 27:10, do not forsake your friend or a friend of your family, and do not go to your relative's house when disaster strikes. Better a neighbor nearby than a relative far away. This verse emphasizes the significance of reliable, supportive relationships outside of the dysfunctional family dynamics. God didn't make us to be alone. He wanted us to have friends. Friends can be your support system, and that is such a good thing. And I want to end with that today. I hope this gives you hope for families, hope for your family, hope to maybe get into some family counseling. Family counseling is so important. If there's some dysfunction, if you're not getting along, get in and work it out. God designed mother daughter relationships, mother son relationships, mother father. Get in there and work it out. You know what? The Bible says never put off tomorrow what you can do today. Tomorrow may not be promised. So you want to make sure that you're doing that and getting into that. Jean Ann, would you like to say anything in closing?
You've said some really great pieces, and there's a song that keeps coming to me. It says, "If any man be in Christ Jesus, he's a new creature. Old things are passed away, and behold, all things are new." And I say that to say, in therapy, and I do want to say this piece: you can't force anyone into therapy. You'll make them
Right.
run.
Hmm.
And before you worry about doing that, take care of you. Heal
Exactly.
you.
Hmm.
Because once you heal you, they may not see it right away, but that's okay because you see it. And the shift only matters with you. Talking scripture, we said this in church. When you answer to God, you answer only for yourself. It doesn't matter what anybody says. And they talked about Jesus, so why not you? And I do love David because you talked about
I love
him.
David. I'm going to
And
dance like
it's,
David did one day. I'm going to dance.
but here's the thing about David, and I need you to understand this because this is
Repentant.
what he was, a man
Yes.
after
After
God's
God's
own
heart.
heart,
Yes.
in spite and despite it all. And so, if you're sitting in conviction of yourself because of your sins, God is not judging you. Get the healing to get the breakthrough, to get to the heart of the matter, so that the brokenness can heal and repair, so that you can be a good work for yourself and then for the world.
Yes. Exactly. Thank you so much, Jean Ann. This was so needed. I am so excited to bring this to you, hopefully weekly. Then now there are some times where I ain't gonna be here weekly. So, you might turn it on, but I will always keep it real with you. That's who I am. I'm not on here faking anything. I'm real. And I am very direct, and Jean Ann knows that. And I guess that's why our personalities are the same because we will tell each other what we need to know and what we need to hear at the right time. And whether you like it or not, it's going to be said. And we respect each other and love each other very much for that. So I thank God for putting us together. I thank God for this journey that He has put me on. He has put Jean Ann on. I thank God for If You Don't Mind. Because you know what? When you were growing up, your mama said, if you don't mind, boy, you better mind me. Girl, you better mind me. If you don't mind, you'll lose it. Things get in it. So take care of this. Guard it with all your heart. It's so important. That's why the enemy's after it. If you're dealing with some mental health issues today, you know what? Reach out. I'm the Healing Journey Counseling and Consulting. Jean Ann, would you like to tell them your information?
Sure, my name is Jeanette Moses. My business is Peace from Pieces,
Yes.
healing from the heart of the matter. So that's the irony of the words that we said. Because when you heal from the heart of the matter, you're restored, right? Everything is a heart condition. And Lynn will have my number on the system to contact me if you'd like at this time. But you know what? Take care of you. That's really what I want you to
Yes.
understand. Do
Yes.
do the work. It's okay. No one knows your business. It's your
Exactly.
business. You keep
Yes.
other things secret, they don't need to know. Just
Exactly.
get your healing.
And one thing I want to add that counseling is confidential. So that is something that is, um, you know, good for you to know. So, anyway, we're going to end today. We thank you for all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day. And to the mothers who have transitioned up there with God, happy Heavenly Mother's Day to them as well. Love you, Gina, and thank you.
Love
Until
you
next
too.
week, peace.